All right, so we're going to be working in Xcode, obviously. The only reason I mentioned that is because I'm going to try a little something new here where you don't actually see the top bar, because I figured out that I never really go up here and do anything when I'm teaching these. So you don't really need to see these menu items up here. So hopefully you benefit from a little bit more space at the bottom of these tutorials like that. So, but one of the things you're going to need to do is grab a new project. So just go over your file, new project. We're going to start with a tvOS application. Obviously, it's going to be a game. Just click on next, and you can call it whatever you want. But let's just start with 2-player games. How about that? And language is going to be Swift, game technology, sprite kit. You can put in here your organization identifier, whatever that is in your world. Okay, go over here and create the project, and we're going to just, not work with any like menus or anything like that. We're just going to start off in the game scene. And once you're over here, let's start wiping out some stuff. Let's get rid of everything that is in. You know what? Let's get rid of the touches began statement, and because that really sort of doesn't apply now that I think about it. And then you can leave in the did move to view statement, but you don't need to put anything inside of there. And then let's do this. Let's go over here to the top. We're going to write import and then game controller. And then cut back over to here. And I want you to go over here to capabilities. And obviously I have this target selected, but the only one really. And then go down to game controllers. Click this on, and then you're going to check off the controllers that you're going to support, which is going to be all 3 of these here. And apparently when I submitted my game to Apple, I did everything right, but I forgot to do this. So it came back real fast. But, Apple actually approved that game within an hour, which is really neat. So it also tells me that they want some games in that store. Okay, now that you've done that, let's go ahead and create a new file. So I'm going to go over here to File. Again, I do realize that's cut off, but new file. Here it is. And we're going to pick on Swift file. Doesn't matter what you pick from over here, just Swift file. And I'm going to call this game scene and then controllers. And what we can do is write most of our code inside of here, okay? Go ahead and just take these 2 lines, put them over this way. And what this kind of lets you do is, I'm just going to write extension and then game scene. And then it's essentially like we're writing all this code inside of this same file, but it's organized to a separate file. So, we were going to write quite a bit of code in here, and that way you can kind of leave your game engine alone. That's what your game scene, which I think of it as like a game engine. So this will just be stuff that deals with these controllers. It also gives you a nice little way to basically just take this same file and just drop it into another project instead of having to kind of like figure out what to cut and paste out of here and put into your existing code. All right, so next head back over here to the game scene file, and then in your did move to view statement, what I want you to do is call 2 functions, which of course we will write in just a moment. The first one is going to be called set up controller observers. There you go. And the next one is going to be connect controllers. Okay, and we'll just copy one of them. Go back over here. Now let's write func, put the first one in, set up controller observers, and so we can stop getting a warning. Just go ahead and fill in the other one. Connect controllers. There we go. And actually that's a full-on error, not a warning. It should go away. All right, there it is. Okay, now in this one, what we're going to do is set up 2 NS notifications for what happens when the game basically observes a controller getting connected and what happens when it observes a controller getting disconnected. They're going to look pretty similar. We're going to start off with NS there it is, notification center, and then this will be default center dot add observer, and we're observing self. The selector of basically the function that we want to call when this is observed, when it happens, is also going to be connect controller. So if you want, you can just put that right over there. And then the name is going to be, here we go, type right after me, GC, actually it might show up over here, did connect notification, that's it. All right, so So there's a specific name for this. And then the object is just going to be nil. Okay. And if you want, you can just go ahead and copy the same little chunk, and then let's change this to controller disconnected. And that is singular because most likely all your controllers are not going to disappear at once. It's just going to be one of them. Maybe somebody left the room while they were holding it. And then this is going to be GC controller did disconnect notification. So notice there's a little dis in there. Okay, so some of you might be wondering what's going on with calling connect controllers twice, because we've got this observer right here that calls it, and then at the beginning of the game we're also kind of like forcibly calling that function right there too. Well, this notification really just gets run one time, or the first time, and then after that, it doesn't matter how many times you kind of reload game scene. Let's say you reload it every time you restart a battle, right? This is not going to get called again. This is going to get called a second time only if a controller was added or disconnected, basically. So like someone comes in the room with a third controller, flips it on, then this would get run again. Or again, if somebody turns off their controller and then turns it back on, then this will get run a second time. But we're going to write this function in such a way that it doesn't matter, how many times it gets run. It's going to do something, if it needs to, but if it doesn't need to, it's going to be harmless to run twice. But what is harmful is if we don't call this function, or at least write that in there, so that if you're playing along with your trusty Nimbus controller, and you flip that little toggle switch up here at the top, that's a good way to test flipping things on and off, just FYI. Okay, so let's get into our connect controllers. And what we're going to do is write a little for statement here. It says for controller in GC controller dot controllers. And what that's going to do is iterate through all the controllers we've got connected. Then we're going to put an if statement in here that says if controller dot extended gamepad does not equal nil. That basically just means that it is an extended gamepad controller. Then we're going to do something, right? But I'm actually going to add a little bit into this. I'm going to say and controller dot player index equals dot index unset. And what that means is in our game, we have not assigned the controller a player index. And the index actually would appear when you set it in one of these 4 spots over here. Now, oddly enough, the controller has 4 spots, but at this time, the Apple TV only supports one micro gamepad, that little remote that comes with the TV, and then 2 external controllers. So I guess potentially you could have 3 slots. So there's kind of a 4th one in there that I suppose is unnecessary. But they do give you the code to assign it a 4 spot. I guess you just never, I don't know, you never use it. But so that's what the indexing is. But initially everything comes in here as an index unset. And that's a good way to be able to kind of control whether or not we've kind of already assigned the controllers a player to take. Okay, so that's what we're looking for here. And then if obviously if it is unset, then what we'll do is we're going to say that the controller dot player index is going to equal dot index 1. All right, so basically we found a fancy controller, we're going to make you player 1. Now down the road we're going to have a lot more kind of checks inside of this if statement to deal with, whether or not there's only 2 controllers, the micro one and an extended one, because in that case, what you'd want to do is you'd want to take your fancy controller, give them player 1, and then the micro one, give them to player 2. Or what's going to happen if there's more than 1 extended controller, things like that. But just for right now, we're going to keep things simple and just make this controller be indexed to player 1. And then after that, or I'm sorry, within this statement, we're going to do is say controller dot extended gamepad, do a little question mark right here because that is optional, and then valueChangedHandler is going to equal nil. And the only reason didn't want that. The only reason we're doing that is I'm essentially clearing out the changed handler if it had already been set up, which is what we're going to set up in our next line of code, which is going to be aptly titled set up extended controller, and then in this function we're going to pass in the controller. Okay, so instead of trying to do everything inside of this function, we're now going to step out of that and function, set that up over here. Okay, now of course we'll use the same function to set up any one of the other controllers, and that's why we're passing this particular controller into it. So anytime you press the X button, press the left thumbstick, all those values are being registered because we set them up down this way. All I have to do is put in here controller and specify that what we're passing in is a game controller. Okay. And then at that point, we're going to say controller dot extended gamepad dot valueChangedHandler is going to equal, and do a opening squiggly brackets, just press down a line, and then it'll fill in this other one for you. But right here, what you're going to do is do a parentheses and then write gamepad, and then specify that this is a GC extended gamepad, and do a comma. You can tell I'm reading my notes. Controller, and then this is going to be element. Okay, and then you just put in after all that. All right, let's see if this little, yep, all right, that guy went away, and we can now begin kind of setting up what's going to happen when you press what. One of the things that we're going to do down the road, though, is in the beginning of this, basically say if gamepad dot controller, I'm just going to show you this now, but I don't think we need to implement it yet, equals dot index 1. So this is one of the ways that we're going to tell who's controlling what. Okay, and within this you could say something like, okay, well, if the index is 1, that means that the player being controlled, let's say the player being controlled equals the player 1, whereas this would also be something like this for player 2, right? And then down in our code later on, we're going to say the player being controlled dot, move right, things like that. The little pseudocode, just looking ahead. But for right now, let's just worry about, getting the buttons to do whatever we want at this point. So we're not going to worry too much about the player indexing right just yet. Okay. Okay, so we're going to write in here if, and then gamepad dot left thumbstick equals element. That means it was basically any of the things that the left thumbstick did are the element that has changed in this case. Else, if gamepad dot dpad equals the element, and then once you get done with kind of checking for those, and of course we're going to check specifics within here, then what we can do is check for specific buttons for it. So for example, else if, and I should just be copying these out, if gamepad dot buttonA was the element, and button X. Let's also look at so these shoulders. All this gaming terminology that I didn't know until recently. The left shoulder button. There's also as you can see, a left trigger. And obviously these are all things that come with the extended game controller. You don't have as many of these with the standard gamepad. And certainly none of these exist for the little dinky micro remote. Okay, and then yeah, let's get into some of the things inside of here. So the D-pad is probably the easiest one to just look at initially. And what we'll do is test within here if gamepad dot D-pad dot down dot pressed equals true. Then we'll do one thing and kind of so on like that. And actually a sort of a neat thing you can also do is test to see if that equals false as well. So basically it was being pressed down and then it's no longer being pressed down. But I think in most cases you're just going to want to test to see if it was pressed. And then, so yeah, obviously we're putting in here else if statements for if it is the up version of the D-pad, and the D-pad, I should explain, is this guy right here. So you're kind of your standard directional pad, and this is your left thumbstick. That's your right thumbstick. In the game that I submitted to Apple, I put in controls for both sticks, even though they did the same thing. And obviously the D-pad and this is a simple game, the D-pad and the thumbstick did the same thing as well. So I kind of just put in something for everything. And I even plugged up the trigger buttons and the shoulder buttons to do things like jump and X or jump and shoot, even though there are plenty of other buttons that did that same thing too. Apple, they do specifically recommend that you unnecessarily program that stuff up, even if it does the same thing as something else. All right, so the left thumbstick is a little bit different because you're kind of subtly moving it around. And again, it's, imagine your thumb on top of this thing, just pushing slightly forward or down, things like that. So you've got some finer tuned controls is the point here. And we can put in here if gamepad dot left, oops, sorry. I should really just be copying that. Let's start with up. Dot value is greater than. Now you could start at 0.0. What I found is that it's really easy to give yourself sort of a false positive in a sense if you are only checking to see if the value is above 0.0, because when you're using your thumbstick, you might go left but also push up slightly at the same time, but you're really just trying to go left, right? So I found that testing for a range over 0.2 was like more indicative of, oh, this is actually me pressing upwards. And you can kind of finesse this however you want in your game. What I did is I put in an else if statement for all of these. All right, so we're just going up, down, left, and right and checking each one of them over or below, or just over 0.2, I should say. Oops. But you might want to do something totally different, and you might not want these to be else if statements too, because keep in mind if the value changed and it detected this being over 0.2 in the up direction, but maybe you went like diagonally, okay, well then it's not going to register the right or left because this is an else statement over else if, right? So you might want to just do something like this, take all the else's out, right, and then detect for all of them being over 0.2. Now, of course, they all can't be over 0.2, but again, you can get that pretty solid diagonal and trigger both of them. All right, so we still got a little bit more, but I'm kind of running up against the 20-minute mark for these videos, and I like to keep it under that. So let's come back and we'll talk more about this in the next video.